Welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. Today we are talking about the Western Conference in the playoffs. Now, I did my breakdown last night on the Eastern Conference, and granted, there's some good matchups on that side of the league. I think the Western part of the league is insane. Looking at the bracket right now, I'm just going to read off the teams: Dallas, Vegas, Stars, Knights, Jets, Avalanche, Canucks, Predators, Oilers, and Kings. There's maybe one team on that list that I could care less about on this whole matchup. It's the Kings, but they earned their spot, so I can't really hate on them that much. But that is insane. Looking at the stats right now, the standings right now. I didn't watch the last game of the season because honestly I didn't really care, and it was just kind of whatever. Because I kind of anticipated the Knights would win their game, but they didn't. So the team I don't care about wound up having 99 points. The Knights had 98. Obviously, they're in the West wild card number 2 spot. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how this has shaped up so far, because I was really anticipating that the Stars would be playing the Kings, and then we'd have the rematch of the Knights playing the Oilers in round 1, or having them play again. Either way, I'm super happy. Again, looking at the standings, every team barely scraped 100 points in this division. We have the Stars with 113, Jets with 110, Vancouver 109, Colorado 107, Oilers 104. Surprisingly, they came back and got 100 points this year, which is crazy to think about considering how they started at the beginning of the year. Nashville 99, Kings 99, and Vegas 98. That is insane. I mean, that's a majority of the league scraped by, was close to 100 points, and they got damn near close. Pretty much all those teams did. So anyways, we're going to jump into these matchups really quick, and I'm going to give you my take on the breakdown on these things, and then follow-up video, we're going to fill out a bracket, and I'm going to give you my full-on prediction. So let's jump into it. First up, talking about the Stars and the Knights. I just recently saw the Stars play in Seattle like 3-4 weeks ago. Granted, it was kind of a boring game. It was still really good to see the Stars put together a really cohesive, and the game seemed really fluid to them. It seemed really easy. Granted, the Kraken weren't doing great, but the star power on that team is insane. Yeah, it's, to me, I don't want to I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of my bracket, but they're my pick for the Western Conference. They are just completely stacked down their lineup. They have 9 players that have reached the 20 goal mark for this year. So that in itself is a crazy stat. Looking at their lineup and who's in their lineup, obviously Joe Pavelski, one of my favorite, if not my favorite player in the whole league right now, and has been for a while. I mean, he's still producing at a high mark. We got Jason Robertson, who's not turbo, but fucking robo. He's been killing it all year. I mean, there's just so many players on this team that can produce points. I mean, their depth is insanely deep. It kind of reminds me of how Vegas was last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if they walked away from this. Now, it's crazy to think about these matchups. We got the Stars and the Knights, right? This was a Western Conference final rematch from last year. So each of these lineups, or each of these matchups, could easily be a Western Conference finale, and it's this is what we get in the first round. So either one of these teams who wins, granted I'm pulling for the Stars in this one, it's gonna be, I don't want to say a letdown, but it's just gonna be, it's just of a preview of how good the competition is this year in these playoffs. And I said that in my last video, how well these teams are. This one being the first one, the Stars and the Knights, this one's going to be insane. Looking at the Knights, what everyone knows about this whole Mark Stone situation here. Is he going to show up for game 1? Most likely, yes. Is he hurt? Yeah, he's hurt. But, just again, speaking in football terms, there was a player in the league that had a lacerated spleen and he missed 2 weeks of football. Now, he's had a lacerated spleen or injured spleen. I forget what the injury was, but he's been out for quite some time. It's very hard for me to believe that this whole time he's just been chilling or rehabbing. I'm pretty sure he has, but I would say I bet money on it that he's been just relaxed, and he's had back issues in the past, which we know about. This one, I'm assuming the Knights just kind of put him on ice for a little bit, like just chill out. Let's make a cup run, and we'll bring you back. And sure enough, that's kind of the feeling. And I would say 90% of everyone's thoughts are out there right now as far as how this injury was played out and how the trade deadline worked out for them, because they got deeper in the trade deadline, and we know this. Obviously, Thomas Hertl went to them, which is unfortunate, and it's hard for me to not root for him. And it's just really hard to root for the Knights in this whole situation. So that one is a tough one for me. But they're just as deep as they were pretty much last year. Now, the thing about them is they are coming into this situation. On paper, it looks like they're healthy, but are they healthy? I don't know. They've had issues, health issues the whole year. Granted, they do have really good players, all-stars on their team, and they obviously produced and played through whatever injuries they had last year. It looks, from all the interviews I heard about last year's championship run from them, they were relatively healthy the whole run. I mean, they had a couple issues here and there, but they were pretty healthy. I don't know if that's the case this year going into the playoffs. They say they're healthy. Every team's going to say they're healthy, but I don't know about this one. This one, I think there's some injuries there they're going to be nursing. They're going to be quiet about. Dallas is a tough team, and if Vegas can hold their own and not bring up old injuries or not, they should be fine. I think this one could easily go 6. You can definitely see it going 7, but if injuries start coming into play for the Knights, I think they might be done in 5, and that's being perfectly honest. What I think happens in this situation or in this series, I think it really comes down to goaltending on Vegas' side. I think that's the gap that's in their lineup right now. Their goaltending hasn't been great. It's been off and on, hot and cold, and it's just kind of, it's that one hole that I see. Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson. I mean, granted, Aiden Hill won the cup last year. He hasn't been super great this year. Logan Thompson, I'm not really putting any eggs in that basket. So if they have to rely on goaltending again this year, I think that's going to be a situation. And playing the Dallas Stars, they're going to have to rely on goaltending heavy because they have got some goal scorers up and down that lineup. And I think if they can get to the goaltending easily or figure them out easily, I think the Stars are going to walk away with this one. I think I'm going to go with Dallas on this one for sure. Next up, we are talking about the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche. This one's going to be interesting because the last time the Avs played the Jets, they got smoked, and you wouldn't think the Avs would get smoked like they did, considering how well they've been playing all year. But it happened, and it seems like the Avalanche, they know how to play their game. They have a really complete game. It's just not a complete game against the Jets. For whatever reason, they can't figure out the Jets. Not a lot of people have figured out the Jets this year. I think where people really can't figure out is Hellebuck. He's been playing lights out all year long. He's most likely to win the Vezina this year. At least that's what everyone's saying. You look up the stats. I mean, he's definitely got the resume to win it this year. But it's going to be really interesting to see how well these guys play against Hellebuck this year or in this round. Looking at their stats right now, everyone had Winnipeg pegged to be taking the Western Conference this year. And early in the year, it did look like they were going to go that route, but it just things fizzled out. Like it's never going to stay the same. And I don't think anyone rides the hot hand all year long. If they do, they usually fizzle out in the playoffs. So I think this is perfect timing for the Winnipeg Jets. Coming into the playoffs, I think the matchup, like all the Western Conference matchups, are going to be tough. This one is especially tough because they're playing a Stanley Cup champion from a couple years ago. They still have mostly their whole lineup. There's talks that Landeskog might make a sneak return to this year's run. Who knows? If he does come back, then that's going to be interesting. They're going to be facing Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Rantanen, you name it. I mean, just keep going down the list. I mean, they're still stacked as an incredibly good team. But the Jets, on the flip side, have done some crazy good work this year. We know how the exit went last year in the playoffs and what their coach had to say about their players, and the team has responded to that this year. instead of trying to get out of that situation, they signed and stayed with the team. That being Hellebuck and Scheifele, and they did crazy good work in the trade deadline. So, and all those players have seemed to fit extremely well into this roster. So, everyone's talking about what team is it going to be that has the best chances to win the Stanley Cup this year. From a Canadian team, if I'm looking at these 4 teams right now, we got Edmonton Oilers, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Canucks, and the Jets. If I'm looking at all 4 of those as a whole, and I'm putting my money on any team that's going to get close to the championship or the Stanley Cup, I think it's going to be Winnipeg. But they do have to get past this first round. So, I mean, that could throw a wrench in that plan really easily. But, yeah, this matchup is going to be, if not as tough as any of these other ones. I think this one, in my back, I mean, I really feel like all these matchups could go 7. I don't think Edmonton and LA are going to go 7. And I don't really think Nashville and Vancouver are going to go 7. I think that's the one that's going to surprise a lot of people of going 7. But any of these can easily go 7. Even same thing on the Eastern Conference. But I was thinking about this the other day, and I think this might be one, we're going to see a bunch of huge upsets this year. And I think we're going to see I think we're going to see the most game 7s in any playoffs we've ever seen this year. I mean, just look at the matchups. So let's say Dallas wins and then Winnipeg wins. That could easily go 7. If the Knights win and Colorado wins, that could easily go 7. And all these matchups on paper are insane. The talent is insane everywhere we look. So it's very hard for me to be like, okay, I think Toronto's going to get it or not. I really think Winnipeg is going to be the team that's going to be standing on their head this round and potentially going forward. They're deep as well. I would think, looking at their roster, I think they're just as deep or damn near close as they are to the Stars. So yeah, this one's hard for me to pick. If I really had to put money on it, thinking about it, everything, Nathan McKinnon being really close to winning the MVP this year, potentially, I don't think it's enough. I think the goaltending on this matchup is going to be huge, just like it is in every other matchup I've been talking about. I think Winnipeg takes this one. I think we're going to see Dallas and Winnipeg go at it in the next round, in round 2. So Vancouver and Nashville. This one's really interesting to me because, for one, I didn't really watch a whole bunch of Nashville this year. To me, there's never really been. I mean, granted, Nashville a couple years ago was an incredible team to watch. The playoff atmosphere in Nashville, Smashville, whatever you want to call it, has been it's been an incredible atmosphere. I wish I could go to one of these games because that seems like a playoff town that I extremely would want to visit and party in, and catch a game in. But I haven't watched Nashville like pretty much this regular season. I watched maybe a couple games here and there. Their lineup to me isn't super star filled. I mean, granted, they have Philip Forsberg on there, Roman Josi. Saros has been playing out of his mind lately, so it's very they're great. They're a good team, and they definitely deserve their spot. I mean, they've been holding their spot for a little bit towards the end of the year, so they definitely deserve to be there. I think this is the blue collar team on the West Coast. I was talking about blue collar teams yesterday on the East Coast, that being the Islanders. I think the blue collar team on the West Coast is definitely Nashville this year, or in the Western Conference is Nashville. I would not be surprised to see them take Vancouver to the last game. Granted, Vancouver is extremely deep too, and they've been playing lights out as well, pretty much all year. Anytime they've come into an issue, it seems like they never went backwards. They kind of just stuck to the plan. They found pieces to fill in and just keep riding the wave they've been riding. Granted, they've had a couple losses here and there, but they really haven't showed really any kind of weakness. I mean, they got smoked a couple times this year, but those are one-offs. I don't think you're not going to have your best night every single night. But I don't think as a coach looking at those games that they were smoked in, you can't really take a whole lot away from those things. These teams, and especially Vancouver, they're in the spot they're in because they played extremely well, and it's just, I think it's really going to come to fruition this round here. We're going to see what Vancouver's really made of. There was all this talk of, are they going to go to the Cup? Is this the year that Vancouver, riots for a good reason this year? I don't think. I mean, it could happen. I'm not going to say it's not. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. Like, it could easily go Nashville's way, and it could easily go Vancouver's way. I didn't even mention Ryan O'Reilly on Nashville. I mean, like, that guy has been pumping this team's tires the whole year, taking them on this run they went on. I think they won 13 games pretty much straight, and he was a big part of that. So, yeah, this lineup as well is pretty damn impressive. And this series right here, I mean, I'm excited to watch all these ones. Granted, I said I didn't really watch a whole bunch of Nashville this year. I'm definitely paying attention to them this year, or in this round, like everyone else. But trying to find holes in their lineup and what could cause them a first round exit, it's kind of tough to say. They're a pretty well built team. Barry Trotz did a really good job of building this team. He knew what he wanted after he got rid of Duchesne. Bring in Ryan O'Reilly and a couple other pieces here and there, and they're built incredibly well. I think they're built for a playoff run. Vancouver, they have their star players. They have incredibly good defense. They have had incredibly good goaltending. Could this be the upset? I think this might be one. But again, I could see it going either way. I don't really have a pick for this one yet. I have to really sit down and look at their season series this year and look at a couple things. But I think this is going to be going. If I had to put money on it, if I had to put money on it for entertainment's sake, looking at this series and the next series, I think Vancouver's really going to take this one because if Edmonton can beat LA, Vancouver and Edmonton are going to meet in the next round, and that is going to be one hell of a battle, a Canadian battle, and it's going to. I think that one, that one's going to be insane. It could very well we could have a Canadian team in the Western Conference Final. I don't know. That's kind of how my gut feeling is somewhere. Just looking at it, not looking at any other stats, but that I think that might be picturesque for the NHL. But who knows? We'll see. We're going to move on to the next one. All right, the Oilers and Kings, two of my least favorite teams. One being I don't really care for the Kings, and two, I remember when Connor McDavid was coming to the league, and that's all we heard about. Granted, he deserved it, but I was tired of hearing it, and I was actually really, happy for the Sharks when they did beat the Edmonton Oilers, and their coach got axed, but that was my little win for the year. But yes, Edmonton is back in a playoff spot. We didn't think they would be here. A lot of people didn't think they'd be here, granted how they started the year. I didn't think they'd be here, and I've had a couple thoughts about this pretty much the whole year. We know how they played after the All-Star break, going into the All-Star break. I think they won 12 straight or 11 straight. That's well-deserved, and that they definitely need the points, especially with the star power they have. You would think they wouldn't have had the slump they had at the beginning of the year, but obviously things happened and they did have it. And they fought their way back to the spot they're in now. What I think the issue for these guys, I don't think it's an issue this round. Put it to you that way. The Kings have played great. I've actually watched Kings games because of the division they're in and the conference they're in. So a lot of the late games are typical starts for me. It's just 7 o'clock, 7:30. So I've watched a lot of their games. They played extremely well at the beginning of the year. Kind of fizzled out in the middle of the year, and then they fought their way back and kind of been riding this wave of consistency. Kind of like how they did a couple years ago when they won their cups. They still have Doughty on their team. They still have Kopitar. That's been basically their main veterans on that team, and they've been building pretty much around the younger guys, and those guys have shown incredible leadership on their team. So their young players have done incredibly well, and they kind of been riding this wave. So I'm not 100% like completely shocked that they're in the playoffs. I was, again, when they had their issues, I think okay, they rode the wave. It's done. Someone else is gonna step up to the plate. But they fought back, and honestly, kind of surprised that they're still here. So again, it's the one team I don't really care about. It's the Kings, man. Like, it's hard to be, root for the Kings when you're a Sharks fan. But Granted, they do have some veterans that I really respect and really like to watch play. So I can't hate on them. The only thing I can hate on is geography wise is I'm from NorCal, they're in SoCal, and that's really about it. So I can't really take too much away from them. But do I see them beating the Edmonton Oilers this round? I don't think so, man. I think Edmonton is riding their wave just as much as LA is. We knew about, and again, going back to their issues, they fought and clawed their way back to the spot they're in right now. They have an incredibly deep team. They're not as deep as the Stars are, but they have incredible talent on their team. McDavid, Draisaitl, Vander Kane, Perry, Hyman, with Lindholm, and a couple other pieces here and there. I'm not going to go down their whole roster right now, but they're deep as well. Where I think the issue for them is, again, it's goaltending. It's what got them in trouble at the start of the year. I don't think it's great. I don't think they're ready for the playoffs, to be perfectly honest with you. You can say the same thing about the Kings. I'm not 100% on the goaltending on both sides, but if I had to pick, talent versus talent, I think Edmonton walks away with this one. I think they walk away with this one in 5. But again, LA has given them issues in the playoffs. They did last year, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that maybe go 6. It's hard for me to say this is going to go 7, but again, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. Where I think the issue for Edmonton is it's the goaltending. I don't think it's going to affect them this round, but I think it's going to affect them next round if they get past the Kings. And if they play Vancouver, watch out. I think the next round might be incredibly telling for the Edmonton Oilers that, they had their good run, and I think how they got to to their playoff spot, I think they're going to be gassed. If I'm being honest with you guys, I think if they have to play the Kings with okay goaltending, go to the next round, play Vancouver. If they play Vancouver, I think that one goes 7, and I think that's where we see Edmonton run out of gas completely. I think the goaltending struggles the next round, but that's me looking way ahead, and we're still talking about the first round here. So LA, I don't see LA getting past Connor McDavid. Really, I don't, but you never know. So, all right, man, that's been my take on the Western Conference. I know it hasn't been super structured, but I'm doing this on the fly, and the playoffs start tomorrow, so it is what it is. If you guys are interested in talking hockey and following along, please hit that like and subscribe button down there. I'm going to be doing pretty much talking about games these whole playoffs. I'm not doing breakdowns like this. It will be more structured. We'll actually have some highlights to talk about and highlights to show, but yeah, man, if you guys are digging the channel, digging these playoffs, hit the like, subscribe button, and follow along. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.